Good evening and welcome to the August 22nd meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And welcome those of you that have joined us, and for those of you that have joined us on the on TV. We have no public hearings. Any announcements from the board tonight?
I went past the fire spot today, just on the way here tonight, and they're about 90% completed cleaning that up already. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Where the fire was, they're about 90% cleaned up.
Brookfield Place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can never
So
say.
the remains that are all
It's mostly all metal now.
Yeah.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda? All set. We have no appointments. Any public comment? Anybody that would like to speak that isn't on the agenda? We do want to welcome Kevin with us tonight. Collins, who is our one of our deputy sheriffs.
Soon to be our senior.
Yeah, soon to be the
Waterboro
senior.
service. Sean leaves us in September 4th or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think that's the target date, roughly.
Dwayne Fay starts after that.
How is Sean? You heard?
Good?
Good? I heard he had a run-in with a canine over on
I didn't hear about that.
Oh, he didn't? Over on the lake, I guess he was talking with somebody over there who had a dog that was less than friendly, and he just grabbed him.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Sorry for his dog.
All right, correspondence, we have the treasurer's report, and I believe the CEO's report is over on the table if anybody would like a copy of that. Selectmen's reports. Dwayne, anything?
Nothing major.
Tim?
No, I don't have anything, thanks.
Ed?
Nothing tonight.
Gordon?
No, thank you.
And I'm all set.
Jeepers.
Right to Gary.
And on a night when I have a short report, too.
There you go.
Let's talk about Ospey Lake level petition, which I think we've hit everybody by now. They know that the hearings that were scheduled for today by DEP on this 10-year-old petition were canceled because the Board of Selectmen got together and actually passed an ordinance, a lake level management ordinance. The Department of Environmental Protection approved it on or about August 10th. I was sitting at Sunday River in a meeting with about 100 other town managers, and I just about wanted to sit up and scream when I got that email in the middle of the meeting. I didn't, but I'm happy. I heard some disturbing news and some phone calls that were made to, oh, Pete's sake, the lady who did the petition.
Leo.
Thank you. And some very inappropriate phone calls, too. And I don't know if Kevin was involved in that, but that's most unfortunate. And everybody should know that any future petitions, if they want to submit, they'd be submitting to this board of 5 people that would be set up by the Board of Selectmen. And we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come, and how and when to actually staff that committee. Concerning McLucas Road extension issue, we've been talking about a little. Dave Benton, the Public Works Director, and I went up and met with the Allens for a little while at their home last week. We need to do some more research into these 1955 town meeting records to see if not recording at the registry is the main problem and the main solution, if you will, at this point in time. So this issue is not closed out and ready for prime time hearing for you folks. In terms of the Public Works Director hiring, we have 7 applications that came in on time, 1 that was late. I've whittled them down to 3, and those 3 candidates will be interviewed all hopefully next Monday. And 1 selectman, the fire chief, and myself will be the interview committee. In terms of a code enforcement update, there is a report. If folks didn't pick one up, there's one on the table over here. I wanted to get we need to ramp up the frequency where the busy departments of rec, the police activity, as well as code enforcement, get more information here in front of the public and in front of the selectmen. So you have that before you. And I would just tell you to look at the difference between last year and this year and compare it with when I started here. Mark Mitchell was the code officer, and I think that year, a 12-month period, we had 1 new house. These last 7 months, we've had 21 here in town. So certainly the economy is doing better. The building activity is much, much improved. And this doesn't even include some other things. There's a 3-building plaza that's going to be down across from the new ice cream store in South Waterboro, across the street from there, that will be coming in for permits fairly soon. Thomas Hardware, obviously, we hopefully will rebuild, and there's going to be a home occupation vodka distillery on Things Mills Road very soon. And that's public information too, so I'm not speaking out of school. But I also raise this issue because if this continues, then we're probably going to need some additional staff help for inspections, field inspections, for the code officer next spring through fall. He's not having, at times, he's not having enough time to sit in his office and go through plans and meet with walk-ins. So stay tuned for that. And you can see on the bottom, an actual new home has somewhere upwards to 13 separate visits, approximately 3.5 hours per house for total inspection time when all those inspections are added up. That does not include travel time. So these are some of the things that Glenn and Tammy pulled together. I hope that we do this, at least every 6 months. And then I also have information from Parks and Rec. Senior lunch tomorrow is supplied by Lakeside Market, and upcoming senior trips are as follows. September 19th, Lake Winnipesaukee Foliage Boat Cruise. There are only 6 seats left. I assume that's on the boat and not the bus.
It's the bus.
It's the bus. Oh, sorry. Okay. So if you want to go to Lake Winnipesaukee on September 19th, get a hold of Rec fairly soon. October 3rd, seniors are going to Freiburg Fair for Senior Day. And the price is quite reasonable. And under 65 admission is $12, and if it's over 65, you don't pay anything. October 10th is a guided historic tour of Salem, Massachusetts, so dress up in your best witchcraft and go down. There's only 20 seats left on the bus there. And those are the things that are going on this fall for seniors in terms of rec. Just a couple other little things, I guess. Alfred's code enforcement officer, Jim Allaire, has been very helpful in the code enforcement inspection world when Glenn has had to be out. He doesn't work on Fridays in Alfred, so he's been very helpful in coming over here. And as you folks know, he is one of our approved assistants. And there was a call that came in again this week. This is kind of regular. Does a shed need to meet setbacks? If the shed is less than 100 square feet, it does not need to meet setbacks. So just get that out in the public. Thomas Hardware cleanup was already talked about here. I guess Dwayne was saying the Route 202 lights were going on as of today.
They was flagging it, but the lights was not on when we came up through it noontime.
Okay.
I went through there today. They were just, there was a flag.
A little flagging
They
this
were
afternoon.
stabilizing the bank when I came up through.
That makes sense because I haven't had a phone call yet on what a horrible backup it is. So that's a good thing.
I'm sure it's going to be a backup from 6:30 to 9 in the morning, and the same thing coming home from 3:30 to 6 at night. So.
The only other thing I have is from Shirley, our assessor. She's well on her way to having the commitment preparations completed by August 31st. So I'm thinking that September 12th should be your first, and if you wish only, discussion on setting the mill rate. Should give you 3 options like you've had in the past. And if things go well, you could decide on the mill rate that evening. Okay. That's it from me.
Question for Todd. Summer camp is over now?
It is.
All wrapped up?
We're going on camp, which is here, and we're done with that on Friday.
Okay.
Next week we're off, and then we start Bonnetty the week after.
How many kids in summer camp?
The day camp was about 70 to 80. The teen camp was between usually 38 to 50.
Okay. Well, kudos to you and your staff for
Thank you.
keeping everything going and very few phone calls. All right. Any other questions or comments relative to the town administrator's report? Let's get into new business.
Anyone have any questions of Kevin? You want, in case you get to it all?
Yeah, does anybody have a question for Kevin? I'll be there.
We'll get together and maybe at one of the September meetings have Kevin do a little more formal presentation like what Sean used to do to the board and to the public for stats. But we didn't put it on the agenda tonight, so but it's nice enough to come.
Good. And you've been working mostly nights?
Yep,
Evenings?
just evenings, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Everybody should consider that 7 days a week too, so they'll never know when you're off.
That's right.
The only question I've got for you is Deering's Bridge with the amount of traffic that's going to be flowing, hopefully across Deering's Bridge and not down 202 in the next 4 or 5 weeks. Is there speed limit signs enough up there to enforce the speed limit?
I believe there is. There should be
Okay.
plenty there. Yep. Yep. We'll certainly put that on.
It's definitely
on our
going to
list.
be a problem, but.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to the agenda.
I would recommend that the Lake Arrowhead residents consider going across Dole's Ridge and over to 117, so that it's not,
Or Townhouse Road.
yeah,
North on
Townhouse Road to 117, so.
And they can, you
I
can
just
fight
would
with
like to add
truck
that they
traffic.
probably ought to go Joel's Ridge there. It's all just been paved, I believe, new pavements.
To stay on a state or a state aid road, Townhouse Road and 117 will keep you on a state or a state aid road, so.
Okay. All right, let's move into new business. Initial discussions on the street opening draft ordinance. This has been certainly kicking around a while. The Road Review Committee put a lot of work and time and effort into this, sent it to us, and I think it just got kind of set aside for a while, but I think,
Well, that fault is mine, not yours.
well, I didn't want to come out and say that.
Yeah, apologize.
Gary put it on his desk, and that's where it was. So, anyway, so we kind of broke it out here tonight for initial discussions, and I know there's a few members of the Road Review Committee in here. This is a very how many pages are there in this thing? It's not a short ordinance.
Lots of parts.
And when we say street opening, we're talking about someone physically needing to open up the street for a ditch or whatever the case may be, or a crossing, be it for utilities or whatever the case may be. This drives a requirement of what has to happen to determine how it's done, how the construction that takes place, how it's filled back in, et cetera, et cetera. So not a short and sweet one-page ordinance. And I guess you guys want to talk any bit about it, or no?
I will a little bit. As you just explained, this is important when it comes to earthwork and pipes and water lines and electrical lines and so on that are put in the street and crossing our street. We started this when Doug was Director of Public Works, and he put his heart and soul into it, and we all worked very hard at it, and we think that we've got it all spelled out pretty good. I'm sure that the law firms will probably find a few things that the wordage needs to be changed a little bit, but we expected that. We didn't have any lawyers on the Road Review Committee at that time, so they did come and talk to us once, but we've done our best, and in the future, after you guys have gone over it, and if you need us to talk more about it with you, then we're all, other than Roger and Doug, It'll be Scott Davis and Nancy Roberge and myself. That's all that's left on the committee at this time.
We need to beef up that committee too.
Yes.
Not unlike a lot of committees, we're in that cycle now where we're finished a year and now we got to get people to
Especially
come
now,
on.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but especially now, Dennis, because they're starting to work on advisement situations on roads and conditions of roads, and it'll help the Director of Public Works and it will help the town in the long run, just as it always has, so.
Yep.
But with just two people, they can't really even vote on anything. So, we do need someone.
So I guess we put out a plea to anyone that's interested in serving on the road review committee, to certainly contact the office here, and Sherry has all the applications and
David.
whatnot.
David, would you wait a minute, please?
Yes.
When you're done.
Go.
Matt? Essentially, for the folks back home, instead of just putting a patch across the road, if you go all the way across the road of uniform thickness, this makes it stepped up at 2 or 3 different thicknesses to make the patch stronger. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, the final pavement has to be wider than the dirt trench itself, and that helps make sure the hot top will last longer as well. And compaction, compaction is really important in all of the trench work and safety. We've got a lot of safety items in there for trench boxes and the width of the trenches and the depth and so on and so forth. So it's complex. There are, I forget how many pages now, but.
Well, I think there's 8 pages, and then there's certainly the application.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, the state has the state opening permit. They're not allowed to open a road within 5 years of it being paved, or is that that's still?
Not all of them, Dennis.
Okay.
They don't put that moratorium on all of them.
Okay. So what you're suggesting in the language here is that if that were to happen, we could request that they repave the entire road, not just the trench.
Yes.
Okay. So is this with Natalie?
No, I purposely wanted to get any of your thoughts, and then after tonight, that's the first place it's going, because this is going to change in terms of formatting as an ordinance.
Yeah.
I know she'll make it look different, but that's okay. So you'll see it again after she's done.
Can I say something?
Yep. Yeah.
Another big part of this is how the traffic will be handled, like looking out for the townspeople and people traveling through, which is great because you never know what you're going to run into. And this lays out what they have to do to regulate traffic. And I don't really think it's that long. I think it's very professional, and I sure couldn't find any fault with it when I read through it.
Okay. Any other questions from the board while we get this teed up? If not, I think we move forward with legal review, and then we'll, once that's done, get that back to the committee, and then we'll schedule public hearings. All right. Any other questions or comments? Any other comments from the road review folks? Anything?
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Item B. This will be a very short discussion. One of the things that we talked about in our goal-setting session and whatnot, and I think has become more and more of an issue as we talk about controlling length of docks, which we don't do, and controlling different things in the water bodies in the town of Waterboro. We're very limited on what we can do that because we don't have quote-unquote a harbormaster. So this kind of starts that discussion process, and I know Gary's pulled together some stuff from a couple of other towns and whatnot, but what we wanted to do is at least introduce this as a discussion point. I don't think that we can just say, well, it would be a harbor master for Ossipee Lake. I think it has to be the water bodies within the municipality, so it would have to be the defined water bodies being, Lake Arrowhead that lies in the town of Waterboro. Certainly the other ponds that are inhabited and have motorized boats and those kinds of things on it. So this package is really just new to the board. Went out in the packet. Any discussions or comments or questions? I think what we should do is probably start to put together a few workshops, right? We're not going to solve this in one night setting anywhere, but maybe what we need to do is determine what it is that we need to move forward with, and to move forward with a harbor master. And it has to be in compliance with the state, right? It has to.
Yep, like it says in the memo there, you have to take a 3-day training course at Maine Maritime, run by the Maine Harbor Masters Association. You can, or cannot, it's up to you, have this person authorized to carry a firearm and enforce laws and issue citations. And the lady at Inland Fish and Wildlife, I talked to the harbor master in Naples. You can actually have them enforce some of the F&W laws, I guess, on the lake. And that's something to think about. We don't have speed limits out there, but there are other things that the Warden Service could obviously use some more man hours in looking at. So that's a possibility.
I was informed that they had to go through the police academy
To be armed.
If they're armed.
After have powers of arrest or something, they gotta go to the academy.
in order to arrest.
That's not in the harbor master information. I was a little surprised to read what I did. You could carry a firearm without doing that. But maybe that's another piece that just wasn't in what I looked at. So we'll check that out. As you can see from the memo, Naples has up to 700 moorings over 4 sizable bodies of water that are at least the size of Little Ossipee here. This fellow that works there is a retired police officer. He works about 10 hours a week, but he readily admits that the ladies in town hall do the lion's share of the work. They handle all the paperwork. They probably make the phone calls for a mooring to be repaired and moved. And he's just available and out on the water in those 4 bodies as needed. They seem to be pretty happy with the way that situation works for them, and it's on an annual stipend. He works from probably Memorial or sometime in May through September. And, this came to be because of the situation out at the campground here. That would be called a mooring field, because other than that, you'd only be allowed 1 or 2 moorings for every, and it varies. It can vary in your town from down to just 50 feet. If you wanted to, you could have a mooring to a few hundred feet required for each one. So we would need to specify that.
Some of the marinas up there in Naples have got 300 or 400 feet of mooring right there at their. I mean, they own the whole piece of property, but.
I mean, this could be an existing staff person, or it could be somebody else that's just on a stipend for that. I would think it would be nice if we could find somebody that wanted to do it, that had a boat. We could pay them to keep and maintain. Perhaps they lived on the lake. That would be even better. So those are things to think about, so they didn't have to go out and buy or use the boat at the fire station, which we could do.
So if we had a harbor master, we talked a lot about shore erosion during this whole thing of water levels, and I think probably everybody would agree that part of the problem with soil erosion is the size of the boats or the wake boats or whatever that are on the. Can we, because inland fisheries and game kind of control that body of water, can we influence that if we had a harbor master?
They could certainly work with some of the riprapping going on. If anybody's ever been on Secaucus Lake and you jumped in the lower part of the lake and went up through that first set of narrows, you would see the most beautiful riprap job done by folks up there. I was told they pulled the stones out onto the lake in the wintertime and placed them all along that Narrows, which was eroding severely. This has probably been in there for years. They did a fantastic job. If we wanted to tackle something like that with monies and the conservation agencies, for instance, the little islands that came up in the petition discussion, perfect idea to go and do something like that on those high-valued areas that are eroding away because of the size of the waves and the size of the boats. And I talked to Inland Fish and Wildlife about a horsepower restriction. That's something that we can look at. It's
But they would have to enact that, right?
yes, yeah, that would be in their laws.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
If we get to a point where we think we need a harbor master, I would believe that we've now got 2 sheriffs, and that would probably be the way to go, where they've already been through the police academy, and all we got to do is furnish a boat that, but if
If they only had to do
Naples
one-
is only running 10 or 15 hours a week, 2 or 3 out here on Ospey Lake will take care of it once you get your major problems taken care of. So
We'll have to sort all of that out when we come up to it, but that's something that we'd have to do some negotiating with the sheriff's office.
That harbor master must be in the union contract, isn't it, right now?
I would think so. I don't know if it mentions it or not. I don't know.
That was said in jest.
well, I mean, these 2 officers are all already working for us, and it's
Yep.
going right along with, and they're here to enforce our laws and regulations along with the state and county laws. So
Yep. Something to look at.
there's really no sense to add more cost to the taxpayer. We've already got it.
Just a point of clarification on the harbor master. He's required to complete the harbor master course as the criteria that's set forth by the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. And he also has to successfully complete the pre-service law enforcement training that's required of reserve officers. That's a so-called 100-hour program.
That's to be armed?
Huh?
To be armed?
Yep, that's, and his scope of duties is limited only to, on the water and stuff like that. To when he can't go out and, stop a car or anything like that. He doesn't have that extended authority.
You could do anything that would be associated with water regulations, right? I mean, boating regulations.
Yeah, in order to carry the firearm, they have to be enrolled in the reserve officer training course.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because that was even, years ago when we had a constable in town, that was the issue of whether they could carry a firearm was they had to have gone through that training. Chauncey always wanted a gun, God rest his soul. Well, said he had to go to the training. That kind of put a squelch on it. All right. Anything else? Any more discussion on this?
Any more homework for me from you folks?
I think other than it, we probably ought to at least, let's get the discussion of this board that's going to oversee the water control ordinance done, and then I think engage that group to have some discussion about harbor master. Okay.
Could I say something, Dennis?
Yep.
From what I read, it's just as simple for us, excuse me, as the lake level ordinance. It's home rule. We can make it as simple or as complicated as we want. And for years, we've been going through this thing where people complain about moorings, and we say we can't do anything because we don't have a harbor master. So, it could start out as something as simple as just looking after the moorings.
Right. So let's get, that, once we establish that hearing group, those are going to be presumably 5 people that are going to have an interest in the water level of the lake and things that are going on the lake, and might not just be Ospey Pond, it might be some of the other stuff, but.
Yeah, we would have to specify which bodies of water the harbor master will and will not work in,
Yeah.
or just will work in.
Okay. Initial discussions on appointments to Community Center Steering Committee. Again, this was something that we had some discussions relative to the board's goals and getting back to the comprehensive plan and working those action items out of that. It always comes up with relative to a community center. I think we've dabbled a little bit around, what the makeup that committee should be. We had some discussions a year or so ago here that we talked about it. Does a community center, what's a community center look like? Does it have a library? Does it have recreational? Does it have meeting space and all of that stuff? And I think we're only going to solve that if we start to put together a committee that starts to peel the onion back. And, so, I think that certainly from an organizational perspective, the Friends of the Library and the library had a lot of work and effort that they did, and a lot of questions that were answered relative to that piece of it that I think can be somewhat transferred to the other pieces of it as well. So, I think it makes some sense to bring in whomever those folks may have a desire to continue to work towards that end. From certainly with the emphasis on the library piece of it, but we also need to bring in the rec piece of it as well. So I don't think we need a huge committee, because then I think you just kind of start to get paralyzed based on all of the various different things. So what are your thoughts on? Because I think the sooner that we at least kick off a committee, the sooner that we at least start to answer some of the questions and pull together some of the stuff relative to, if we were to move forward with a community center, what would it look like? And what would we need for it? And those kind of things have to be answered. So.
You need to summarize the meeting we had recently?
Yep. Go.
I was invited to the Friends of the Library, and so was Todd Smith, and it was a good discussion, a wide variety of things there. Some business that was not related to the community center, but at least 2 library trustees, the interim librarian Pauline Keith, Todd and myself, and we met for an hour and a quarter, thereabouts. And most of the discussion then was, the bulk of it was on the community center. And we talked a lot about who should be on it, and that was my purpose for feeling out you folks tonight in terms of, do you want just one person from each of rec and library, or 2 from each? And then do you want a board of 7 or 9? I personally think that you get bigger than 9 and it gets to be a little heavy in terms of running a well-organized meeting. I like 7. It's more efficient, but I would say 7 to 9. And then the makeup of that, 1 or 2 from library or rec, and then the balance to be from citizens, and I figured 1 selectman should be on there. So those were my thoughts. We talked about those things at length with the friends, with the trustees, with Todd and myself. Good meeting to perhaps kick off that subject, and because they were pleased to see that this is one of the selectmen's goals. I think we need to move forward and have this committee meet maybe weekly in the first few months of its inception, and then maybe twice a month after that. But I would hope that they would not bump back to once a month, because you tend to lose a lot of momentum if you only meet monthly.
I would say a maximum of 9, and I'd love to see 9 people involved, but 9 times out of 10, when you get a committee started, if you started with 9, you're only going to end up with 7 or 6. So I would just soon see 9 start, because as you go along, somebody gets upset and they disappear.
We talked about that because we think there ought to be some especially stringent requirements for attendance and participation.
If you could get 9 very interested people to start, you might end up with 7 when you get all said and done.
Yeah.
So, and it's awful hard with 4 or 5. So
And things are going to come up. People's interest is going to, go up and down. But if you're not going to be at the meetings, if you have a family situation, whatever, those things are going to happen. But if you can't be there, then we would ask people up front before you appoint them to please resign, and we'll put somebody else on the committee, because this has to happen in the next 1 to 2 years in terms of this work, and it has to happen fairly regularly. There's a lot of work to do in this regard. Sorry, I interrupted.
So if we,
well, no, but I mean, when you say almost every week, it's almost impossible to get 9 people that all can find the same evening to meet. So.
But you might only need a month or 2 of
Yeah.
that at most.
But it's very involved to start, so
Yep.
everybody needs to know that up front when they say, yes, I can jump on, and then realize that
Yep.
it's gonna be every week or every other week for a couple months.
so what's the feeling of the board? We shoot for 9 and go from there, and I think that allows us to grab a couple of people from the library side, a couple of people from the rec side, and then really, and then you push it out to, I think, put it out to advertise it, that's what we're looking for, and, I think it would be nice to have a pretty cross section of
So,
age
somebody,
on I mean,
somebody from the
people
planning
would,
board or
right,
somebody that's
Somebody that-
familiar with the zoning that,
somebody that might have been on the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan committee, or, I mean, those are the kind of things that I think we.
How about this board? Do you folks want a member of the selectmen actually on the committee? Be important to know.
I'd be glad to do it, I just need to work out a schedule.
So I guess that's that answer.
No, maybe not.
We need 8 more. So why don't we put an ad out? Certainly, I would think that if we use Todd and is Pauline the interim?
Yeah, I think
So
get the public works director hired here, and I'm pretty much ready to go with both rec and library ads to get those hired.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be by the end of September, but darn close to it here. And actually have them automatics on the committee.
Right.
And more importantly, we can spend some time, since down the agenda fairly far tonight, mission statement. And what do you folks want to say, in this ad? What are we going to tell people in this ad that they're signing up for? What did you like or not like in what I wrote in the memo there? I'll need to know what to put in the ad.
Well, I mean, you covered it all in a paragraph here, right? You even threw in the kitchen sink.
We need a place for bean suppers other than the fire station and a bigger seating area.
Yeah, I think you got to look at the type of complex. Does it include athletic fields or doesn't it? I mean, I'm not sure that the mission statement should include all of that.
Well, I shouldn't have said mission statement.
Yeah.
General mission language, if you will.
Then I think if you just say this is the mission of the committee, then yeah, you're probably right. You got to look at all of those things. From a recreational perspective, does it or does it not include athletic fields? Does it or does it not include, a public library? Does it or does it not include, commercial kitchen area or commercial dining area or something that can be set up for that? Does it, from a rec perspective, does it work as a mini gymnasium? Or, I mean, I don't know how you capture that all in, hey, this is what we're looking for, Jack.
Both of us would have at the same time.
To me, the key question is simply, what do we want the complex to do? I mean, that's the mission of this committee. That they be prepared to sit down with an architect at some point and say, this is what we want this to do. And you negotiate what it looks like in concrete forms. And you've got two departments desperately need space. Both have missions to serve the whole town. So they each have to do their own homework and figure out what each of them need to make this thing work. And they both have missions to the whole town, so they need to explore all kinds of people who they may not be serving at present to find out what they're looking at. And they got to put all that stuff together in a package and come to you folks and say, this is what we think we're looking for. And if you phrase it in the ad or whatnot, is they have to answer that question.
Yeah. So I think...
And beyond that, I don't know if you need to give them a lot of...
I think you're right. I think the ad has to be, we're looking for, I mean, that question has to be distilled down, right?
Right.
So you got to fill the ad with, hey, we're going to look at all of these things, right? But when all is said and done, the committee's role is to come out of here with a recommendation of this is what we believe it should look like.
Right.
Can you say that in an ad?
Absolutely.
Bridget?
Just gonna ask for a dance off.
Huh?
She's gonna ask for a dance off.
What do I know?
I just asked if you were gonna ask for a dance hall to be incorporated into this.
I should have another hat that I wear then, reporter, dance, library. I think that one of the things we need to look at is we're talking about two departments. And I think we need to move beyond thinking about the two departments, move through them, but a community center may be much more than recreation and library.
You're right.
So that we need to look at who are all the constituencies that might have need for space for their activity. And I don't know how you can put something in there, but something about people who dream about things they've seen in other towns that could be here. Because it may be beyond what we can even imagine being recreation and library.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be a...
Say it like that, Tammy says.
Say it like that.
Dave, you get that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're not, I mean, you look at some of these other municipalities that ended up with, some great rec centers and community centers that were formerly, Army reserve stations or whatever. I mean, we're not that fortunate to have somebody out here that's going to vacate a premise, although maybe the school might vacate some places. So I think that's going to be the start of trying to, and I don't know how you put that all in, but you're right, it's more than just two. It's anybody that's a stakeholder or believes that they can be a stakeholder. So why don't we look to put together a committee at 9, one position already being filled.
I thought there was 3.
Well, I think there would be 3 filled, right? Because we're going to reserve the Parks Director position and the library, and
yes,
those are going to be automatics. So, okay. Anything else on this? Any other input?
I'd like to sit on that too.
Okay. So maybe we have...
So now we have 7 people we need.
Yeah. So 2 selectmen. The volunteer.
it's up to you guys.
Okay. Anything else? Jack?
Just as you're thinking about committee members, I'd love you folks to do some thinking about the people you know in town who would be good on something like this, and go and call them up and talk to them. Yeah. It has to be more than just an ad in the paper. I mean, your experience with the people in town.
Hello, Jack, are you there?
No.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah.
So I just think
every week you come in here, you bring a whole bunch of people with you, right? So it's like, here comes Jack and his entourage, right?
That's right. Gotta keep tabs of you people.
So we mark you down as
Would public safety
third.
have anything to do with this?
the 30.
Kevin?
Huh?
No.
Maybe the
My goal
public
is to get this
safety.
committee going, and
Down the road.
hopefully
Safety
we're gonna have
committee.
7 to 9 people without me.
Okay. All right, so let's get something ginned up here and put it up, okay? Tammy said if she was a resident of Waterboro, she'd be on the committee. Tammy. All right, next item, discussion whether or not to support the town administrator's application and commitment to the MMA Health Trust Board membership.
Well, I've been interested in being on what health insurance is doing and not doing in our country and in our state. I've been interested in being on this board, that is the Health Trust Advisory Board that administers health insurance to the 300 to 400 towns that MMA supplies health insurance to. It's a personal interest of mine because it's such a frustration when it comes budget time. There's a vacancy now, pretty stiff competition. I think there's 7 applications for 1 position, so I'm certainly not guaranteed to get it, but I wouldn't mind applying. But upon your application, you have to submit that you've been endorsed by the elected officials. So my question to you tonight is whether or not you would support that application, not knowing if I'd get it or not. And if I did, as I put in my memo to you earlier this week, I would give up being on the Executive and Finance Committee at Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, which is a little less of a time commitment, certainly a little less travel as well, but that's still 5 to 7 meetings a year that I would be giving up, and this one would be probably a little more than that in time, but I don't think I should add this on top of my other involvement now, so I would be giving up some other things that I'm doing now.
What's your thoughts, folks?
I was thinking about that, and I don't see a whole lot of problem with having him on that particular committee, the health committee. And I think that when we move towards having an economic development director, that he could take over as that liaison on the committee that he's going to step down from.
Right.
So both of those would be well served, I think. Certainly, healthcare costs they're not going down at all, and so if we want to continue with at least the level of coverage that we're offering, employees here now, that I think that we need to have a voice in that so that we can keep those costs down for the taxpayer. And if it means having somebody on the board that's working directly for us, I think that's important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay, Jim?
I think it just dovetails with the work that you did last year with offering benefits to the dependents and consolidating insurance. And sounds like a good idea.
And to Gordon's point, I think our costs have to go down. The increases are unsustainable. And maybe the towns are going to be self-insured with a huge policy to cover that. I don't know, but something has to change. We can't keep doing this. I mean, the increase that MMA is going to give us is probably going to be in the low double digits, and it's going to be half of what some of the other companies are giving their members. I mean, 20% increases are going to be all over the place this fall, so it has to change.
We certainly can't wait for Congress to do anything.
Unfortunately, we are, because the ACA is still law, and some of these things you'd like to do are against the law to do now, because they haven't done their job. But I wouldn't mind, if you're willing, to actually have a motion and a vote on this, so I can pass that on to MMA folks.
Okay.
I move that we give authorization to the town administrator to actively seek a position on the health board.
So we would support his application.
And we would support his application.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
We will not be discussing item E tonight. Old business, continued discussion on FY 17-18 Board of Selectmen goals. I think we're well on our way to at least putting these together. One of the things that I think we'll continue to say is that we will continue to, even though it might not be our top goal anymore, I think it's the top goal of Gary and his staff to provide, exceptional customer service. And that's always been one of the goals and objectives of the board. But I think these other things, as we come into finalizing, some of the changes with the comprehensive plan, and I know the planning board is well on their way to at least updating the zoning ordinance to get it in today's language and those kind of things, and then I think they'll start ticking off some of the things there. So those goals and objectives are continuing to work. So anything that anybody else wanted to bring up as we move forward here? Because I think we'll probably we probably should move this to just, I hate to call it pending decisions, because it's really not a decision. We need to continue to work those goals, right?
Yeah, this was the first time we've had discussion since I rewrote them from them. So if there are any other changes or red flags that you folks saw as we wrote, let me know. This is in essence from the workshop we had August 1st.
The other thing, and we kind of alluded to it just so that people know, it's been mentioned here a little bit tonight in a couple of instances, but we will continue to move forward. We talked about it a little bit at town meeting and beyond, is instead of contracting with Southern Maine Development,
Planning and
Development, that we're looking to go back to a hired person that would serve the role as town planner and economic development committee, or economic development director. I use that name a little bit loosely, but so as we start to build FY18's budget, actually FY19's budget, we would include that piece of it in the budgeting process. But I think if you go back, how many years when we first decided to, it was what, 07 or 08, I think, when we ended up hiring Tom and brought him in. And I think the other real question is that I think we need to have a workshop with the planning board to discuss their desires, needs, and so item 2, we probably need a workshop with the planning board as we move forward, but I think from a budgeting standpoint, we do at least need to start that process. If you've noticed some of the things, one of the things was a continued reduce of the cost of solid waste. I'm not sure if anyone is following the organics that are being collected in Scarborough and South Portland. That is a pilot program for Eco Maine, but they've collected something like 43,000 pounds of organics in the first few months of that program. So that may very well be something that we got to really stimulate and rebuild that committee as well, the transfer station recycling committee. Other than that, we're going to continue to explore collaboration with other communities, and the big one here was the community center. So some of those things we're teeing back up and bringing to the forefront, and that's what I think the goals and objectives we need to keep in front of us to remind us that what's going on here.
Working forefront.
A what?
A working forefront.
Yeah.
Well, some of the things that rec is doing, I mean, are right up that alley.
Yep.
Those are a little easier than infrastructure and municipal services. I mean, I've talked to most of the neighboring towns here, variety of selectmen or whatever, and been to one, spoken to the Hollis folks, been to 2 Limerick meetings, I guess. Alfred, I see those folks quite often. And I don't know what's going to happen on our snow plowing. Obviously, we have 1 more year with Foglio, and then we're either going to split the town into thirds or find somebody that wants to plow 63 miles of our roads. I hope we find one contractor, but we may not. So there may be some economies of scale with neighboring towns, but I'll be surprised if that happens. I just don't know that we're there yet. Our municipal boundaries that were formed in the 1700s mean a whole lot more to us now than they did back then. I think that's unfortunate.
Well, I'd hate to see us go back to 3, but that's another story.
Yeah.
We'll have that discussion later.
3 plow contractors, not 3 selectmen, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there might be an effort to put back to 3. All right, so we'll keep the goals in front of us, continue discussion of the combination of the town plan. I just talked about that a little bit as well. That's all going to be budget processing right now. So as we enter this year's budget, we don't have FY19. We don't have a snowplow contract price, do we?
That's correct.
So we got to make a decision. Well, I think the easy decision is you put out the bid for the town, right? And then I think you look at what the result of that is, right?
Should probably put it out this fall, I would
Yeah.
guess.
I'm saying if we're going to have an active number,
Contractors some time.
right?
So we
We
have
have to have a plan in order by the fall, I feel. It's important we have a plan on what we're gonna do if we can't find a single contractor.
Well, while I'm talking, David, why don't you come up to the mic, please, because you might have some things to say about this. I envisioned writing the ad for this. Preferably, we would want one contractor to do all 63 miles, but in the same ad, absent that, we would be splitting the town up into thirds, or more or less thirds, and accept
Which is
bids on
something
that.
we had that many years ago,
Right.
but,
And using about the same list also.
I think you could split that in half, though.
in half. Well, we gotta step back and think about one very important thing, though. It doesn't matter how we split it up. We've got one really difficult thing that we've gotta work through, and that's someone loading the same truck.
Yeah.
Right now, we have one contractor. He supplies his own loader, his own operator. We put the sand up, we have it ready for him to use, sand and salt. If we have 3, are we going to have 3 loaders there, or is the town of Waterboro going to purchase a loader and hire a person to load
My
trucks?
thoughts are the public works director is gonna have to have a loader, and he's gonna load them trucks and tell them where that load's going.
It's,
Well, no, I mean, you're gonna have to keep track of the salt and the sand.
Oh,
If you've
yeah.
got 3 contractors and bailing out of there, you know as well as I do, you can run salt, but it doesn't always work. And
yeah,
sometimes the sand's gonna do more than the salt, and sometimes the salt's gonna do more than the sand, but
well, that's another part of it.
it's gonna
It
be.
isn't just the
Well,
loader. Now you're gonna have to, if you have 3 different contractors, right now Foglio's had one of their sons that ran the plowing during the day and one ran it at night, and they would call me if necessary. If we have 3 different contractors, it's gonna put, the public works director is going to have to be more hands-on
He's gonna be
on
the,
calling people out to plow,
the
calling
roads
people out
foreman
to
to do.
sand. That isn't something that the director of public works has had to do, or the road commissioner, for a few years.
Right.
Because
A lot of-
Foglio's did it, it was part of their
a lot of years,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the last time we had 3 separate contractors in this town. We had 3 separate other contractors sanding the roads.
that's right.
So we had 6.
Oh, yeah.
Or 7,
The
right?
plow contractors did not have sanders on their plow truck.
Nope.
We had individual 8-yard trucks running around
Right.
town sanding the roads.
Yeah.
Good, three single axle trucks
Yeah.
doing the
Sanding.
sanding, yeah.
Where now they have anywhere from 7 to 9 trucks with sanders on it.
So maybe, I guess as we start to develop this, I think you bring in Dwayne, because he really has been, he been really driving the snowplow crew, right? Dwayne Foglio? Him and Dougie Jr. or whatever, but I think they would participate in a discussion of what are we gonna do, how are we gonna do it. But if we have to lease a loader for 3 months, you lease a
Yeah,
loader
the
for 3
state
months,
does
right?
it every year. They lease a number of loaders.
And so
Right.
they probably got 15 or 20 loads
Yeah.
leased.
But, I mean, that could solve that, but I
That's
would
just
think
in
that
Region 1.
they would, having plowed this community for umpteen years, I would think that they would more than be willing to participate in a workshop with us to say, what do you think?
Well, with that loader comes a person to run it as
Right.
well. So that's another part of it that,
That would work for the town.
yes.
You'd have to
Which
sleep
is
in them.
Which is
Yeah.
on call 24 hours a day,
Right.
through the 4 months that
Anyway, that's a big nut that we're gonna have to.
Yes.
Yeah. We have been discussing it. I have been looking around, checking with a few contractors that I know. I know of one that's interested in doing the whole thing.
Yep.
And we haven't had a sit-down conversation but it was a passing conversation that I had with them.
Okay.
So if we have one, maybe there's more, hopefully.
Okay. Thanks, David. All right, anything else on, kind of got off the rail here a little bit, but, discuss vote to approve the minutes of August 8th meeting.
so moved.
Second.
I'll take one of those as a second. Moved by Dwayne, seconded by Gordon. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Pending decisions list, that comprehensive plan list, we kind of got to revitalize. Probably ought to have a session, an off-night session with Lee J, right? Just update where we are with that. And I think bring in some of, like Bob Powers and some of those folks we can invite in to, they were participating a little bit early on in that.
You got a particular 1 or 2 things that sticks in your car about what to talk about that evening?
Why don't we refresh that list and get us a list for the next meeting, and then we'll have a discussion of,
Okay.
okay, I think he's probably got it, right? But
Oh, I've got it in my computer.
right. I think week's action list you're gonna get with the attorney on the street opening ordinance, right?
Yep.
Gonna come up with an ad for the yeah,
Snow plowing? Oh, steering committee.
yeah. And we ought to put on the next agenda this, I think it would be an act of good faith if certainly the DEP, the DEP commissioner has approved our ordinance. I think we should appoint a committee, right? And at least get that done. And there's 2 ways you could do it. We could not appoint a committee until somebody files something, but I think
You get the committee going, and then this harbormaster
Right.
where these docks and
So let's put that on the next agenda, that we at least have
They
that
can
discussion.
work on it at least, and
And I think I might have misled the public and misled myself too, because I didn't realize this. Like shoreline zoning, I thought the commissioner had to actually approve it and sign a document. That's not the case with this state law. And I asked for the commissioner's signature on the ordinance, and they came back and said, we've never done that before. And then they told me it's because you don't need to do it. When he approved the ordinance, that automatically transfers the hearing of any petitions to the locality. And there is no magical sign-off letter.
There's nothing that we put on the tail end of the ordinance that said this was approved by the commissioner on.
That's right. It's done through their orders that you folks received, a long letter that it's important information, but takes too many words to say. And so it's done. There's nothing else to wait for.
Do you have your hand up over there? Can I see your hand? Okay.
You have anything, Sherry?
We got nothing else? There were a couple of things that I thought of that, yeah.
Well, the planning board, I mean, they're deep into redoing the organization of zoning ordinance, and Tim's been involved with that as a liaison member there, and that's good. I would think we might want to let them do their thing before scheduling a workshop here on another item. I don't know what you feel about that, but I think it's a big nut they're trying to.
Well, their public hearing is the 6th.
September 6th for that. So they could vote on that on the 20th then.
Then it should be coming our way.
Right.
That would be the perfect time to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right,
Sherry has her hand up, doesn't she?
Sherry.
September 12th, the next meeting, we have a public hearing on marijuana ordinance.
Great.
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, every time I call the town office now, I get this thing of marijuana dispensary.
Every time I call the chair of the Board of Selectmen, that's how he answers the phone. Running joke.
That'll be 1 pound or 2.
All right, items needing signature minutes of the August 8th regular meeting. I think that's it. Other than that, the credits are gonna run here and the reminders. And I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Move, do I have a second?
Second.
Moving seconded, all those in favor?
7:07.
7:08.